You've been living with the same problems for years. Soggy packaging, cluttered counters, a bathroom that takes an hour to dry, drawers where things disappear, condiment bottles that drip on everything they touch. You didn't fix them because you assumed they couldn't be fixed. Japan fixed them, decades ago, without telling anyone. These aren't prototypes. They're not concepts. They're products, already in homes, already working, already available to order tonight. 15 solutions to problems you stopped noticing. Let's get into it. Number 15. The Genkan. You have been tracking the outside world through your home every single day of your life. E. coli, pesticide residue, asphalt chemicals, the biological record of every surface your shoes touched between leaving the house and returning to it, carried freely across the kitchen floor, past where the children sit, into every room without interruption. Most people know this is happening. Nobody does anything about it because the assumption is that nothing can be done about it short of asking every visitor to remove their shoes, which feels awkward. Japan removed the social friction by building the shoe removal into the architecture of the building itself. The Genkan is a recessed entry zone built into the floor plan of every Japanese home, sitting several centimeters lower than the interior floor level. You step into the Genkan, remove your shoes, and step up onto the elevated interior in house slippers. The step up is not decorative. It is a contamination barrier that communicates the boundary between outside and inside through the physical experience of crossing it. You step down into the Genkan because you are leaving the interior. You step up into the interior because you have left the outside world behind. The next idea solves something equally invisible but considerably more urgent, and the warning arrives before the disaster does. Number 14. The Earthquake Warning System. Japan sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, one of the most seismically active geographic zones on the planet. Most countries in this position build stronger buildings and hope for the best. Japan intercepted the physics of the earthquake before the destruction begins. When a fault line slips, it generates two distinct seismic waves. The primary P wave travels through the Earth at approximately 6 kilometers per second and causes minimal surface damage. The secondary S wave travels slower but carries the violent, destructive energy that collapses buildings, ruptures infrastructure, and kills people. Japan installed a dense nationwide network of highly sensitive seismometers calibrated to detect only the harmless P wave at the moment of fault slip. The moment the system detects a P wave, algorithms running on dedicated servers calculate the epicenter location, the estimated magnitude, and the projected arrival time of the destructive S wave at every point in the affected region. The system then automatically overrides every cellular network and broadcasts a distinctive alarm to every mobile device simultaneously. All silent modes bypassed, all do not disturb settings overridden, all volume controls circumvented. Your phone screams. A text message flashes on the screen with the location of the quake, the expected intensity at your specific location, and the estimated seconds remaining before the S wave arrives. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, sometimes 30 seconds. 30 seconds is enough to get under a table, enough to stop a car before the road surface becomes unpredictable. Japan turned the gap between two seismic wave speeds into a life-saving warning system, using physics rather than luck as the margin between safety and catastrophe. Hold on for a moment. If you have not subscribed yet, this is the moment. This channel surfaces exactly this kind of knowledge, solutions that were always possible, just never prioritized by anyone except Japan. Number 13. The non-drip spout. Every condiment bottle you have ever owned has dripped. Every single one. You pour, you stop. A bead forms at the spout tip and runs down the side of the bottle, staining the label, making the surface beneath it sticky, transferring residue to every surface the bottle subsequently touches. The label becomes unreadable after a few months. The base of the bottle leaves a ring on whatever surface it sits on. The cap, if there is one, becomes permanently encrusted with the dried residue of every pour that ran down the side before reaching the cap's position. You accepted this as part of using condiment bottles because every condiment bottle you have ever used behaved this way, and the universal nature of the problem made it feel like an immutable property of the interaction, rather than a solvable design flaw. Japan did not accept it. The Kikkoman dispenser bottle, designed in 1961 and in continuous production without meaningful modification since, features a spout with a specifically angled inner lip that creates a surface tension break at the end of every pour. When the bottle returns to the upright position, the liquid film at the spout tip contracts back into the bottle due to the surface tension, differential created by the lip geometry rather than pooling into a hanging bead. The bead does not form because the physics of the pour are terminated correctly by the geometry of the spout rather than left to resolve themselves on the outside of the bottle. One geometry decision, 60 years of clean pours. The next idea has been making a different kind of decision, one that protects what is inside the package until the exact moment you want it, and not a second before. Number 12. The 3-step wrapper. Every pre-packaged food involves a compromise. The bread goes soggy, the cracker goes soft, the salad wilts under the weight of its own dressing. The texture you paid for is gone before you reach your desk. Most people accept this as simply what pre-packaged food is. Japan refused this compromise for the onigiri. Dried seaweed in contact with moist rice absorbs moisture from the rice within minutes. The absorbed moisture transforms the seaweed's crisp, papery texture into a rubbery, unchewable material that bears no resemblance to the product as it was intended to be experienced. A pre-packaged onigiri, assembled in the conventional way, is already a degraded product by the time it reaches the customer. Japan built a wrapper that maintains a physical barrier between the seaweed and the rice for the entire period from manufacturing through purchase, transport, storage, and every moment preceding consumption. Pull tab 1. The outer wrapper splits down the center, releasing the tension that held the sealing layer in place. Pull tab 2. The left plastic sleeve slides away from the left side of the rice triangle, withdrawing the left half of the seaweed barrier. Pull tab 3. The right sleeve follows, withdrawing the right half. The seaweed falls against the rice surface for the first time as the onigiri reaches the mouth. Crisp seaweed, moist rice. The texture contrast intact, every time. The system costs fractions of a yen to manufacture. The next idea delivers perfect results every single time from an appliance most households use daily. And most households have quietly accepted produce's inconsistent results. Number 11. The Fuzzy Logic Rice Cooker. A standard rice cooker operates on a principle so simple it has not changed significantly since the first consumer units were produced. Heat the water. Detect the temperature rise that occurs when the water is absorbed and the base exceeds 100 degrees. Switch off. The result is rice that is acceptable in the best case and inconsistent across batches, frequently overcooked on the bottom layer while undercooked in the center of the bowl. The Zojirushi induction heating Fuzzy Logic rice cooker operates on an entirely different philosophy. An onboard microprocessor monitors internal temperature multiple times per second throughout the entire cooking cycle. It interprets those readings against a programmed model of how rice absorbs water through each distinct phase of the cooking process. The initial soaking phase, where the grain begins hydrating before significant heat is applied. The initial heating ramp, where temperature rises toward boiling. The sustained boiling phase, where water is absorbed into the grain structure. The steaming phase, where residual moisture redistributes through the grain using thermal energy already stored in the cooked rice. The resting phase, where equalization of temperature and moisture distribution completes before serving. Japan put a computer inside a rice cooker because one thing done perfectly every time is worth more than 10 things done adequately most of the time. Perfect rice from a computer. The next idea uses no computer at all, just the correct shape, to solve the most dangerous moment in the kitchen. Number 10. The Mandolin handguard. The mandolin is the most dangerous tool in most kitchens. The blade is extremely sharp. The food passes across it at speed. The fingers of the guiding hand approach the blade with every single stroke. For any cook whose grip is less than perfectly consistent stroke to stroke, the mandolin without a handguard is a serious risk in every use. For a cook who is tired, distracted, rushing, or simply having an off day, the risk is not theoretical. Emergency room statistics for kitchen injuries consistently identify the mandolin as one of the primary instruments of serious finger lacerations requiring surgical intervention. Japan built the handguard into the mandolin as a structural component rather than an optional accessory. Japan removed the most dangerous variable from the most dangerous kitchen tool by making the safety feature structural rather than supplementary. A safety feature built into the structure cannot be removed, cannot be forgotten, cannot be left in the drawer because it seemed unnecessary today. The next idea builds something else into the structure of daily cooking, specifically the one tool that makes every vegetable task faster, cleaner, and more precise without requiring any additional skill from the cook. Number 9. The Noiri. A Western chef's knife cuts vegetables. A A Noiri was built for nothing else. The rectangular flat blade runs parallel to the cutting board, rather than curving upward at the tip like a Western chef's knife. The flat profile means the entire cutting edge contacts the board simultaneously on every downward stroke. No rocking motion required to complete the cut. No portion of the vegetable left incompletely cut because the curved tip lifted away from the board before the stroke was finished. A Noiri moving through a head of cabbage produces uniform shreds with a fraction of the lateral wrist movement that a curved blade requires. Cucumber rounds cut with a Noiri are perfectly uniform from the first slice to the last because the blade geometry does not change across the stroke the way a rocking curved blade does. The blade height, significantly taller from spine to edge than a standard chef's knife, keeps the knuckles of the guiding hand safely clear of the board surface at all times. This eliminates the repositioning grip adjustments that standard knife technique requires when processing large volumes of vegetables and reduces the fatigue that accompanies extended vegetable preparation sessions. Nothing about the Noiri is designed to cut meat, to mince herbs, to break down a whole fish, or to slice bread. It is designed to cut vegetables, and it performs that task better than any blade designed to also perform 9 other tasks can possibly perform it. A blade built for one thing performs that one thing better than any blade built for 10. If this kind of precision thinking is what you want more of, hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who need to see it. Let us get into the top 8. Number 8. The magnetic knife strip. The knife block sits on the counter. It occupies between 15 and 20 centimeters of the most valuable preparation surface in the kitchen. It stores blades in sealed, humid slots that accumulate moisture, food residue, and the biological matter that settles in any enclosed, damp environment, invisible to the user and unreachable for cleaning without disassembling the block entirely. It presents the knives in a configuration that requires extracting multiple blades to access the one actually needed, because the most frequently used knife has invariably migrated to the back slot behind every knife used less frequently. And it does all of this while consuming counter space that the Japanese kitchen treats as the most operationally critical real estate in the room. Japan mounts the knives on the wall. A stainless steel magnetic strip between 30 and 60 centimeters in length mounts directly to the wall above the preparation area at a height appropriate for the primary user. Every blade attaches to the strip magnetically. Every blade is individually visible. Every blade is individually accessible, removed from the strip with one hand without contacting or disturbing any adjacent blade. The counter below the strip is completely clear. The blades are exposed to air on all surfaces at all times. They dry completely between uses. No sealed slot, no accumulated moisture, no food residue trapped against the blade in a confined space that cannot be cleaned. The strip itself is cleaned with a single wipe of a damp cloth. The next idea eliminates a problem that happens not in the kitchen but in every room simultaneously. The problem of never being able to find anything because nothing in the home has a fixed address. Number 7. Katachi. Japan has a word for the correct arrangement of things. Katachi. In a home governed by Katachi, every object has one specific designated place. Not approximately that area, not generally in that drawer, not usually in that cabinet. One place. Specific. Fixed. Decided once. Applied to every object. Maintained without exception after every single use. The scissors are in this specific position in this specific drawer and returned there after every use, every time, without the cognitive overhead of deciding where to put them when the use is finished. The keys are on this hook beside the Genkan, every time they enter the home, before the coat comes off, before anything else happens. The television remote is in this position on this surface, not near the sofa in a general sense. This position, every time. The charger is in this drawer. The spare batteries are in this compartment. The measuring tape is on this hook. All of it, every object, one place, always. The average person in a Western household spends between 2 and 5 minutes per day searching for objects that have no fixed home. Across a year, that is between 12 and 30 hours of human attention spent locating things that a single behavioral decision, made once per object and applied consistently, would make findable in under 3 seconds. Katachi does not require fewer possessions. It does not require a minimalist aesthetic or a smaller home or a different relationship with material objects. It requires only that every object owned be given one specific fixed home and returned to that home after every single use. The next idea gives the entire home a different kind of reset, one that happens in 10 minutes every morning and makes the weekend cleaning session permanently unnecessary for anyone willing to apply it consistently. Number 6. Soji. Japan does not deep clean. It never needs to. Every Japanese school in the country stops for 20 minutes each day. Students put down their books, pick up brooms, buckets, and cleaning cloths, and clean the building themselves for the final 20 minutes of the school day. Not the janitor, the students. Every corridor, every toilet, every classroom surface, every windowsill. The school is cleaned by the people who use it daily, as part of the standard operation of being in it. By the time those students graduate, this practice is not something they do. It is something they are. The domestic version is Soji, 10 to 15 minutes every morning before the day begins, addressing the high-traffic surfaces of the home in a fixed sequence. The Genkan first, a quick sweep of the recessed entry zone and a wipe of the step. Then the kitchen counter, a damp cloth covering the full preparation surface, the sink basin, and the stovetop surround. Then the bathroom basin, a 30-second wipe of the faucet, the basin rim, and the counter surface. Total time invested, 10 to 15 minutes, maximum. The mathematics are simple and merciless. 10 minutes daily prevents the 2-hour intervention that a week of neglect creates. Most Western households clean reactively. The mess accumulates until it becomes intolerable. Then a major intervention addresses everything simultaneously. The home spends most of its time in a state of gradual accumulation before an eventual reset. Soji eliminates the accumulation phase entirely by addressing the earliest stage of disorder before it has the chance to compound into the stage that requires effort. This is Kaizen in its most domestic form. Small, daily, compounding in the direction of clean rather than toward the disaster that skipping creates. 10 minutes every morning makes deep cleaning unnecessary. The next idea makes something else unnecessary, specifically the brazing supervision that most cooks resign themselves to as simply part of managing a pot on the stove. Number 5. The Otoshi buta. Brazing in a wide pot leaves a specific problem that most cooks simply manage rather than solve. The liquid level sits below the top of the ingredients, meaning the portions above the waterline cook differently from those submerged in it. The portions above the liquid cook primarily through steam. The portions submerged cook through direct liquid contact. The flavor penetration, the texture result, and the cooking time are different for each zone. You stir to compensate. You turn the ingredients manually. You check constantly. The result is still uneven compared to what full immersion would produce, because the stirring and turning only temporarily move ingredients between the two zones, rather than eliminating the zones themselves. The Otoshi buta costs less than a cup of coffee. Japan engineered the physics of even brazing into a piece of shaped wood with a hole in it, and produced a result that constant monitoring and manual intervention never fully achieved. A wooden disc solves what constant supervision never managed. The next idea solves something that has been building in your refrigerator for longer than you probably want to admit, quietly accumulating in the back corners while you focused on the front row. Number 4. The refrigerator. Weekly edit. Japan does not discover forgotten food. The refrigerator is not a container for things purchased with good intentions and gradually forgotten as newer purchases arrive to occupy the visible front positions. It is an active inventory, edited weekly, maintained with the same deliberate attention that a professional kitchen applies to its cold storage, because the consequences of neglecting that attention are equally visible in both contexts. The weekly edit takes place every week, typically the evening before the main grocery shop of the week. Every item is removed from one shelf at a time. The shelf is wiped clean of any residue from the items that sat on it during the previous week. Items are checked for freshness and either returned to the shelf, incorporated into that evening's meal to use them before they pass their best, or discarded. Items returning to the shelf go back in one specific, non-negotiable sequence, most recently purchased at the back, soonest to expire at the front. This is first in, first out. The same stock rotation used by every professional kitchen in the world, applied to the domestic refrigerator as a standard weekly habit, with no additional equipment, no labeling system, and no tracking application. Just placement, consistently applied every shop. The weekly edit also produces the grocery list organically. What is missing from the cleared shelves becomes immediately visible without needing to search the refrigerator for what is already there. What is nearing its best before date becomes the basis for that week's meal planning rather than the contents of next week's food waste collection. 2 problems solved simultaneously in 20 minutes once a week. 2 problems solved in 20 minutes. The next idea solves a problem that sits directly above the counter in physical terms, using the most underused vertical surface in the kitchen. Number 3. The rail system wall. The space between the kitchen counter and the upper cabinets is typically a backsplash. It holds nothing, it reflects light. It collects the cooking splatter of every meal prepared in front of it. Its only function is to cover the wall. Japan turns this surface into a vertical storage ecosystem that stores the contents of the cluttered counter, the overcrowded drawer, and the cabinet, whose door cannot be opened without something falling out. A horizontal stainless steel or aluminum rail mounts to the wall in this zone, typically spanning the full width of the primary preparation area. Hooks of varying sizes attach to the rail, baskets attach, small shelves attach, spice racks attach, paper towel holders attach, utensil cups attach, all on sliding brackets that reposition along the full length of the rail without tools, without screws, and without any modification to the rail itself. A new tool added to the kitchen rotation gets a hook on the rail. A seasonal item removed from regular use takes its hook with it rather than leaving a gap. The configuration adapts to the kitchen's changing needs rather than constraining the kitchen to whatever was decided at installation. The next idea clears something more fundamental, specifically the relationship between every object in the home and the surface it keeps ending up on, despite never having been assigned to that surface in any official capacity. Number 2. The clear surface rule. Flat surfaces in a Western home accumulate without announcement and without intention. The kitchen counter collects mail that arrived this morning, and keys from last Tuesday, and a phone charger that belongs in another room, and 3 items removed from a bag that were never assigned a home, and a receipt that might be important, and a pen that works, and another pen that probably does not. Each item was placed temporarily. Each temporary placement became the new permanent position of that item once the moment of deliberate placement passed and the next task demanded attention. Each accumulated item made the surface slightly more cluttered. Each additional item of clutter made the surface slightly more acceptable as a surface that things were placed on, because it was already a surface that things were placed on. The accumulation was never decided. It was the result of thousands of small decisions to defer the placement decision to a later moment that never arrived. Japan treats every flat surface as a signal. A clear surface signals that every object in the home has a designated place and is currently in it. An object on a flat surface signals one of 2 things only. It is in active use right now and will return to its designated place the moment the current use is finished. Or it does not have a designated place, and finding one is the immediate priority before the object is set down. The second situation is not resolved by setting the object down anyway, because setting it down anyway is precisely how the counter became invisible under its own inventory over the preceding months. The clear surface rule does not require minimalism. It does not require fewer possessions, a smaller home, a different aesthetic preference, or any particular relationship with material objects. It requires only that every object in the home has one specific designated place, and that the flat surface is never used as a substitute for that designated place. A surface that stays clear stays clean. A home whose surfaces stay clear stays manageable without requiring dedicated cleaning sessions to address the accumulated result of months of deferred placement decisions. The next and final idea is the one that makes this rule. Every rule on this list and every other system in the home actually work permanently, rather than for 2 weeks after the initial motivation of setting it up. Number 1. Immediate restoration. This is the most powerful idea on this list. It requires no products, no equipment, no dedicated time investment, no special knowledge, no reorganization of the home, no purchase of any kind. It requires one decision, made consciously, applied consistently every single time. Before moving to the next task, restore what was used for the current one. The chopping board is washed and returned to its designated position before the next ingredient is prepared. The cleaning cloth is rinsed and returned to its position beside the basin before leaving the bathroom. The knife returns to the magnetic strip before a different knife is picked up. The item taken from the pantry shelf returns to the shelf before another item is retrieved. The key goes on the hook beside the Genkan before the coat is removed. The scissors return to their specific position in their specific drawer before the task that required them is considered finished. This does not sound like a cleaning habit. It does not sound like an organization system. It sounds like common sense. And it is exactly the kind of common sense that is obvious to state, universally agreed with when stated, and almost never consistently practiced. Because the moment after a task is finished is also the moment when the next task begins to pull at attention. The meal is plating, and the chopping board needs washing, but the sauce needs stirring. The scissors finish the task, but the phone just received a message. The key is in the hand, but the groceries also need to be carried. The pull of the next task at the moment of completing the current one is constant, And it is powerful, and it is the precise mechanism through which the deferred return accumulates into the mess that eventually requires a dedicated session to address. Immediate restoration requires the deliberate choice to complete the current task before the next one begins, not to partially complete it. To complete it, the item used is returned to its home before attention shifts. That choice, made consistently across every object in the home across every day, produces an environment where accumulation never begins because the material of accumulation, the object not returned to its home, is eliminated before it has the chance to compound. Japan did not solve the problem of domestic disorder with better storage solutions or more sophisticated organizational products. Japan solved it with the daily habit of putting things back, immediately, completely, before the next task begins. That habit, applied consistently across the 15 ideas on this list, produces a home that the rest of the world looks at and asks, how do they live like this? The answer was never the house. It was always the habit. And the habit starts with one decision. The next time you finish using something, put it back, right now, before anything else. That is where it begins. If these 15 ideas just permanently fixed problems you had accepted as simply part of life, the next video is going to do the same thing to a different set of problems in a different part of your daily life. It is already on the screen to your left. Click it right now. You will not regret walking away from this one into that one. See you there.